Okay, so we are live. We are recording. Okay, so hi guys. This is going to be a little bit different. I mean, it's going to be the same thing, but I'm just looking at you now. So what we're doing today is we are going to be doing this. So this is going to be our final project for web coding, right? So we're going to have the rest of the week to finish this up. So here is the last thing we did with our little All About Me website, right? This is our Css3 project. So the idea was that we click on the various buttons at the top and press home. We can get back up. So they'll bring us to the various spots. This is okay. I mean, this is fine. This is basic HTML. The CSS basically does mostly, doesn't really do much in the way of adding functionality to it. It does mostly that with just using basic links and stuff. So what we're doing today, though, is changing it to be a little more functional and a little more, I would say, a little more slick. So this is the final site that we're going to be producing here. Let me just refresh it real quick. You'll notice off the top that we can still see the bars here at the top, but what we don't see are the rest of the tabs here. But if I click on the different buttons, it'll take me to the different sections. They'll appear, and then everything else will disappear. So it's a pretty little thing here. So the first thing we want to do with this, I'm going to go ahead and close out both of these. And I'm going to go ahead and get my Css3 code up. So here's my Css3 code. Right click on it, open with, and I'll say Notepad. So bring that up. Here it is. And I'll just maximize it. I might pull it over to the side here so we can see it on this side. And what we'll do before we do anything else is we'll save this as something else. I'm going to actually remove the title. I'm going to save it as final website. And what I'll do is I'm going to file, save as, and make sure we follow the steps here. I'm going to be in my HTML folder. I'm going to save it as all files. And I'm going to save this as final website.html. All right, save that. Okay, so a couple things have to happen. The first thing we want to do is we want to basically identify all of our different, shall we say, different divs as its own thing. Let me just actually open up the site first here. All right. So hopefully you can see it in the corner there. It says final website there. Just pull this inside and pull up our Notepad document. Here's that. Css3. Okay. So what we have here on one side, obviously the code, and I'm going to, well, first off, I'm going to reduce this back down to 80. I don't know why this is so big. I'll save that. Push over here. Okay. The first thing we want to do is we want to go through each of our divs, and we want to add. First thing we want to do is we want to take up all the links. So we're going to take away all these different these little links here. So I'm just going to one by one remove these. So I'm going to delete that. It'll delete the A here, right? So it's just nothing. It's nothing but buttons. In fact, I'm going to maximize this, and you can kind of follow along with what I'm doing. So I'll take away the A tag for each button. So all we see are just the buttons, and we'll save that just to make sure we understand what we did. So just delete this one by one. We'll delete these. The idea is that we're not going to be using an actual link, but we're actually going to be changing the display, changing the CSS attributes. That's a real powerful way of using CSS to add functionality to your website, and especially when it comes to changing the display here. So I'll just maximize this. I like keeping it maximized because that gives me the opportunity just to have them all the same size. I can really change this. In fact, that might be something I'll do. I'll go ahead and just change this from looks and personality to looks, hobbies and talents to hobbies. Actually, this is probably family and friends is fine. Let me save that, and then I'll. All right, family and friends. We could just change that to one word. Change it to something like, I don't know, people. Right. But this is just for me, just for the sake of being able to. So as you can see, we still have the little pointer symbol, but we don't when we hover over it. That's just basic CSS. So we don't have. If we click on it, nothing happens. That's all. Hopefully you can hear the rain. It's raining really hard right now. Okay, so that's the first thing we'll do. We'll take off the links because we're going to add our function, we're going to add our JavaScript down towards the end. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to give each of our divs a class. So we actually have several divs. What I mean is every time we see these little IDs here, we want to find the ID, we want to add a class. So I'm going to say class equals, and basically this is going to be our sort of website pages. We're going to have like various little pages that we can navigate to. So I'm going to call this page. That's just going to be my name for it. And you can call it whatever you want, but you got to make sure that you remember that name for later on. So let me scroll down here. I'm going to copy this, just highlight this and Control C, and then I'm going to scroll down here. And I'm going to say, I'll space it out, Control V next to hobbies, Control V. Next to class, next to family, Control V next to favorites, and then Control V, we'll get down here next to gallery. So ID, where it says ID equals gallery, not where it says class equals gallery, is two different things. So make sure you have that main thing done. And then what we'll do, just to make sure that we know what we're doing here, up in the Style tab, let's find the end of the Style tab here. I'm just going to mouse down a couple times, and I'm going to put that little dot, period there, for page, and I'm going to change the display to none. So basically they'll all disappear. So let me save that, and I'll just refresh, and so now they all disappear. This is what we're going to start off with. Now, we want to have something to show up. Ooh, now you notice we still have this 800 pixel tall div at the very end. If you included that, which I think you might have, go ahead and find this. It should be the very last thing you see on your site. Go ahead and get rid of that. We don't need that anymore. We wanted that because we wanted to be able to push that up to the top, so we could still see everything if we went down to favorites. We wanted favorites to be at the very top, or images to be at the very top. So let's go get rid of that. And I want to make sure I can see something when I get in here. So choose a home page. In this case, this is going to be looks. So I'm going to do my hashtag looks, and I'm going to change that display to block. It has a hierarchy for what you put down as far as it displaying or not displaying. So let's make sure we put block second. We save that. And this may, okay, that's good. All right, so even though it's there, everything else disappears. So we're gonna change that down the line with our JavaScript. So we'll keep that. That's basically all we got to do when it comes to our CSS. That's the only change we really need. So let's go down to the very bottom of our code here, and I'm gonna keep this on the top here. So essentially, what we want to do is we want to add our script, and we'll close it out. And I'll give myself a bit of room here. And I have little notes here. I wrote this down so I make sure I get this right the first time. So let's look here. Let's get our buttons, get our script. Alright, so I'm just listening up for the nonsense here. Alright, so here we go. So let's start off with our function. Now, our function, hopefully you can see this up here. If it's too small, I can play it. The thing is, we want to make sure we can see. In fact, I'll make this really big, and so we can see the whole thing. And all right, so function. You can name your function whatever you want. Just make sure you remember what it's called. I'm going to call mine open tab because there's going to be little tabs that sort of open up the one web page with different little tabs. You can say open page. You can say what open face. You can say open sandwich. I mean, you can see whatever you want. I'll say open sandwich. Sandwich. All right, so here we go. So we'll start off that and make sure that when we type that, we type in the open close parentheses. Now we're actually going to do what's called passing an argument, and the passing the argument is going to be page name, and I'll describe what page name is later. So we're going to name each one of our pages when we call the function when we press the button. So everybody do the on click. So we'll come back to that. So make sure this is done with camel case. Make sure these are both done with camel case. So make sure that this shouldn't be something that's. I mean, it can be clever, it can be tricky. That's fine, but it needs to be something that you can remember how to spell. You want to make sure that it's not something that's going to just kind of elude you when you want to type it without looking at it. So open sandwich. That to me that's fine. All right. So I'm going to open up my code block here. I'm going to close it down here right above script. So I'm going to make sure I have the open curly bracket Once again, the curly brackets are right there above the quotation mark. I'm going to close my curly bracket there. So with that done, what I can do is I can start typing my variables. I'm going to have 3 variables, or 2 variables rather. The first variable is going to be called I. We'll just call it I. It could be X, could be anything. I is a pretty classic one, especially with what we're doing. We're doing a loop, and then we're going to do the variable. The variable is going to be called page. And we'll define what page is along with I by doing a for loop. And so I'm going to say page equals, and then I'm going to access the document object model. Remember, guys, we talked about that, the document object model being sort of parent-child relationships. So we access the document object model by typing in document, and we're going to get, right, that's a big powerful term there, elements. And this is different, elements with an S there, elements. I've had people say, sort of type in element, and then suddenly, you know, automatically type in elementary. We don't want to do that. We get elements, capital B, by class name. Now, we named all of our divs page. So let's put in double quotes and in parentheses we'll put that in page, right? That's the name of our classes for each one. So let's make sure of that. All right. So make sure that whatever you named your classes, if you named it, you know, Larry, if you named it site, if you named it tab, whatever you named it, let's make sure that we have the same thing under here when we say get elements by class name. And then we're just going to put a little semicolon. Instead of putting the inner HTML, we're just going to say this is basically the variable page is going to be represented by anything that has the class name page. That's what JavaScript is going to be accessing whenever this function is called. All right. So here we go. So we're going to basically set some parameters here. So basically, page has a number of values. The length of the page is however many pages there are. So at this point, we have 5 pages. And so five divs that have the class page. So we're going to access that by putting this little loop, and we're going to say for, this is our for loop, and we're going to set I equal to 0, as in the beginning, right? So 0 is the first one. Remember, all these JavaScript stuff begin with 0. When we did our calendar countdown, if we were using December was going to be 11, because January is 0. So 0 is 1, in any array. An array is a set of values, set of numbers. And then I is going to be constrained by the number of page elements. So page length. Length in this case is 5, right? So it has to be less than 5. But if we add more pages, it'll be more. And then we're going to increment that up. Remember, increment is just +1, right? So this is going to be constantly mousing through each one of these things. So I'll open up my code block here for this for loop. And I'm going to access my array with these little square brackets here. My array being I is going to have this list of values. So I'm going to find my page. Page is going to be whichever I is. And I'm going to change its style, specifically its display. It could be anything. It could be color, could be background color, could be anything. And I'm going to set that display equal to none. That's essentially going to, whenever I click on something else, it's going to make everything else disappear, right? So for now, we have our home page visible. We have our looks visible. So as soon as I do that, it's gonna say this. Let me go ahead and say that and see if this has any bearing on this. If I were to, right, and then, right, nothing quite yet. That's okay. That's all right. We have to call it first. So we haven't called it yet. In fact, let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and go up here and let's call our function here under our buttons. So our buttons are up here, and I'm going to go here to on click, and I'm going to set that equal to open sandwich. Right? That's the name that I gave my function. So whatever you named your function, let me see this says anything. I want to say I might have to pass the argument first. All right, there we go. So there it is. Right. So that causes, if I press the button, right. So in this case, I press looks, that makes it disappear. Press hobbies. So that was the one thing. Let me refresh that. Let me add that to different things here. So on click equals open sandwich. All right, let me put this over here. All right, I'm looking forward to my dinner. Might be a sandwich. All right. And let me save that. And so then when I refresh this, it doesn't matter what button I click, it's going to make that disappear. All right, so that tells me that I have my function is actually working, but we want to add more to it. So in this case, the function is actually working. So if you haven't gotten that yet, let me scroll down here. So this is so far we have our script open and our script close, and we've only added a couple of lines here. So we've named our function, and we're going to pass this argument page name, and we'll explain what page name is in a second. And with that done, what we'll do is we have two variables to declare. We have I, we have page. We've set page equal to anything with the class name page, and basically we've given I the value of however many number of pages we have, and then we're just sort of accessing that randomly whenever we press the button. Not really randomly, but we're counting through them as we increment upwards whenever we press that, which is going to make them disappear, so we can have others appear in their place. Okay, so if you need to pause to get this done, all right, put that in your code, make sure it works before you move on, and then we'll go to the next. So what we're going to do now, once that's closed, we're going to once again access the document object model, and we're going to get element by ID. In this case, we're going to specify what page name is, and we'll do that in just a second when we pass those arguments here. So in this right here, we're just going to use the phrase page name. There's not going to be any quotation marks here because the page name itself is basically a variable. It's basically an argument, and we're going to define those arguments inside the button when we call the function. So that's how that's going to work. And I'm going to put a dot there, style. And then display. So we're gonna access the document. We're gonna find the element. Make sure we spell that right. Element with a capital E. Get element by ID. Your page name. So we're gonna change its style, specifically its display, and we're gonna set that display equal not to none, but to block. Right, like we have so far with our looks right at this point, right? If I refresh it, the looks has block display, whereas everything else doesn't. All right, so in this case, so this is where we need to go through, and we need to specify what page name is for each one of our buttons. So let's go through and we'll add this. I'm going to go ahead and just save this, and I don't think this is going to change anything in specific. I think this is just going to. Yeah, everything's just going to be there. All right, so what we'll do, we'll go to our code here. I'm going to scroll up, and so you want to watch closely as you go through. In this case, I'm looking at my different things. So I've got the ID is favorites, family, hobbies, looks, all these different things. We want to pass that same. As far as our argument goes, we're going to put that same argument inside these parentheses here whenever we open sandwich, right? So in this case, once again, my formula is called open sandwich. So I'm going to use single quotes. The idea is that we have double quotes on the outside by giving this on-click attribute a value of open sandwich. And so inside that, we want to give it a value as well, and its value is going to be looks, and you put that inside single quotes. And so this is the apostrophe symbol, which is right next to the inner sign. All right, so this next one is hobbies, and the next one is family, and then the next one is, I want to say favorites. All right, so whatever you named, whatever ID you apply to yours, you're going to apply. Make sure it's going to be case sensitive. This is going to be gallery. All right, so let's see if this works. Okay, hobbies. There we go. People. Favorites, images. All right, and so we can go through, we can see that each one of these things works. Each one of these things shows up. This one, yeah, all right, good. Everything's functional. If I go to favorites, I can click through it. I can find my websites. They all work. San Jose works. Everything works. It doesn't change the functionality of anything. If it does, then you've done something. You need to go back at your... So here we go. So this is the final website. So what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we have this saved, make sure that we have this functional, make sure that everything is spelled correctly, and make sure that you have it submitted to the right folder, right? So make sure that it's saved as a HTML document, make sure that you've put it in the right folder on the Dropbox.com, and so this is the thing though, Mr. Labella is not going to help you out with this one. This is going to be a summative assignment. It's going to show you what you've learned. Now, in this particular case, we'll be able to sort of give some feedback back and forth to our friends, but you have until the rest of the week to finish this site and make sure that it's functional before you move on. All right. So here we go. So this is the website. It's going to be the final summative assignment, our capstone assignment for our website. So good luck. Cannot wait to see you guys produce.